Library will close at 7 o'clock, but this door will be open. Restrooms, you can have access to the restrooms, and so as we're exiting, we'll go out the back.
All right, everybody. Good evening.
Good evening.
Oh, we can do that a little bit better. Good evening.
Good evening.
Absolutely. We are going to get started tonight with a message from your Mayor Pro Tem of Hillsborough, Matt Hughes. Matt, you want to take it away and welcome the fine folks that are here?
Hey, Matt.
Hey, Phyllis, I'm pretty sure that's Phyllis. He told me she was going to do that. Hi, everyone. And before I get started, I just want to say, are there any defenders of democracy in the house?
I think you got your answer.
I think I did, because I almost didn't hear it. But it's so good to see so many of you, and I'm sorry I could not be there with you in person. Unfortunately, my original travel schedule would not allow me to be there with you, but I am in St. Louis, Missouri, fighting for democracy. Don't worry, I'm not here out having fun and whatnot, but I might be having a little bit of fun with other defenders of democracy. But my name is Matt Hughes. I'm president of the Northern Orange NAACP and recently elected as the third vice president of the conference of the NAACP and commissioner for the town of Hillsborough. And I know some of my colleagues are here with y'all from the town board, I believe, if I remember correctly. Are there any town board members with us tonight?
Feel free to stand up. We'll give you a round of applause.
If so, stand up. I thought maybe a couple of them would be, but they'll probably triple in.
I think we have a future town board member here.
Well, this is a nonpartisan, non-electoral event, so I'm gonna stay away from that, especially with my own conflict of interest here. But it's so awesome that in Hillsborough we do have a group of elected officials who listen, who are always out in the community, who are accessible and working hard for all of y'all each and every day. And it's so good to see so many people in the room there tonight. This is a phenomenal turnout. When Gino told me how many people RSVP'd, my jaw literally hit the floor. And when we talked about this event, we asked, why would we do one of these in a community where people like Senator Meyer and Representative Price are so supportive of our community and doing the right thing? And I know Representative Price is there. Representative Price, let's give you some love. Stand up. Because what she's doing in Raleigh is holding our supermajority down there accountable. And this is an accountability tour. So why Hillsborough? And here's the thing. We've got a supermajority in Raleigh that's doing all they can to decimate democracy. But we will not let that happen, will we?
No. Try not to.
This is a group that's trying not to only entrench themselves into power, but serve only the wealthy and well-connected. Where government is up to the highest bidder, if you're able to hire a lobbyist or write a big check. This is why it took us so long to pass Medicaid expansion, because wealthy donors were okay sending your hard-earned tax dollars to other states to pay for Medicare there rather than here in North Carolina. People say that there is always this both sides mess out there, but let me tell you straight. There's a supermajority doing their best to be more like Alabama than North Carolina when it comes to teacher pay, education funding, gerrymandering, denying people for who they are or who they love, and telling women what to do with their bodies. And let's hone in on something in particular, the egregious act on Justice Benita Earls. These folks want to silence people who are willing to tell the truth about our criminal justice system. But they hear it as subverting their will. And that is why I'm so excited that our friend, my friend, who I've got to work with in multiple different capacities, is here with us tonight, Justice Allison Riggs. Because though this is a nonpartisan event, her election is so important because what they want in Raleigh is nothing short of a 7-0 majority on the Supreme Court that will rubber stamp every bad bill that comes out of the General Assembly that departs completely from established norms and established precedent and go lock, stock, and barrel against democracy and our democratic way of life. So, say hello to Justice Riggs. Get to know her. Help her all you can, because our courts matter. And unfortunately, people who care about the issues that we care about only realize courts matter when decisions are made that we fundamentally disagree about, and we're reacting rather than being proactive. And I would be remiss not to mention all y'all should join the Northern Orange NAACP. I hope you will, and I will reach out to all of y'all. I know I'm supposed to get a list of people who signed up to be here tonight about joining. But if you want to join tonight, right now, and I get the alerts right here on my phone every time someone joins, you can go to northernorangenAACP.org and do it online. You can do it with your credit card. You can send in a check. But I want to also clear up something. All you have to do to be a member of the NAACP, and it's only $30 for a year, is to believe in fighting against racism and for democracy. It came up in a recent movement saying, I'm white. I don't know if I could join the NAACP. You will take your privileged white dollar.
Talk about it.
You don't have to vote in anything, but help us resource the movement to support and fight for people of color in Orange County, in North Carolina, and in the United States of America. So thank you so much for being here. I will turn it back over to Gino.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Hughes, and we will wheel this TV out here in a moment. Don't have too much fun in St. Louis. I've heard it is, what do they call it, the city of love? I don't know. But with that...
That's Philadelphia. You are the second person to say St. Louis is the city of love. I mean, to me, it's the Philadelphia city of brotherly love. But
I don't get out of North Carolina much, Matt. So, welcome everybody. I'm now going to turn it over to someone else who has been instrumental in putting this event together tonight, Mr. Jackson Fall.
Hey, y'all.
Good evening. Hey. Hello.
I'm Jackson Fall, and I'm a recovering Republican.
Sir.
I've been clean and sane since November 8, 2016. I am not affiliated officially with Common Cause, by the way. I was born in Catawba County. My grandfather, Jack Fall Sr., was a two-term county commissioner in Catawba County. And he was also deputy chair. And Pop did a lot of good things for the poor people, the underprivileged in Catawba County, because he grew up poor himself. He was the son of a water well driller in the mountains back when it actually used to still get cold in North Carolina. If y'all remember that. Pop was a conservative when being a conservative meant conserving. Like conserving water, our land. In short, conserving as in not wasting. Pop was also a lifelong member of the United Methodist Church in Hickory. And one of the things that he taught me as a Christian was the most important thing that Jesus taught was, that which ye do for the least of my people, so shall be done unto you. I was a Republican all my life, and I still try to follow this teaching from Jesus Christ. Sadly, I don't see that same lesson as being at the heart of that party that I was with for so long. The party that Mitt Romney recently left, citing that the old wise people had left the party. Republicans like Abraham Lincoln, like John McCain. People that reached across the aisle back when the word compromise was not a dirty word. North Carolina has one of the weakest gubernatorial powers in the country. I don't know how many people understand that the governor didn't even have veto power in North Carolina until 1995. We are one of only 6 states that doesn't have a line item veto. That means that Governor Cooper can't pick something out in the budget like regulations for clean water and veto just that. When Representative Tricia Cotham last spring put on a red dress and say, "Howdy, y'all, I'm not a Democrat anymore, I'm a Republican," she was handsomely rewarded with millions that went to her district. But more importantly, to her and to her party, she gave the other side a veto-proof supermajority. My sister and I went to public schools in Charlotte. But now the lawmakers that sit in Raleigh have passed legislation over Governor Cooper's veto that gives our tax dollars to rich kids to go to private schools. Taking money out of the mouths of public school teachers. In Orange County, 49% of public school children are food insecure. According to a recent report from WFAE, North Carolina private school enrollment has grown by 24% in the last 4 years. Because of an ongoing and growing plan to give public funds to wealthy families. It just doesn't make sense. And private schools have to report almost nothing to the public regarding test scores and achievement, even when receiving public money. Thankfully, North Carolina recently won an important decision with the Supremes called Moore v. Harper. It was a big victory. And what the justices ruled in Moore v. Harper was, no, legislature, you do not have the power to oversee racially gerrymandered maps. After Mitch McConnell stole 2 Supreme Court justice picks, one from President Obama, one from President Biden, we're left with a court that is attacking women's reproductive rights and the environment in atrocious rulings such as West Virginia versus the EPA. One of the men who should have been on that court is now our Attorney General. And I long for the times when I could sit down with my own brother and watch Merrick Garland on 60 Minutes saying, yes, Americans, you have a right to argue. You have a right to disagree with one another. But don't fight. Don't use violence. And I'm sorry, Mr. Trump, but they're not Biden indictments. As Mr. Garland stated clearly, they are indictments from the people, and he is following the law. Sadly, we live in a world created by folks like Newt Gingrich, who began the new Civil War and taught us to use words like the enemy when we're referring to our friends and family members who just happen to be in a different party. We're not enemies. That's what Common Cause is for. A common cause. We have a common cause. We're all Americans.
Thank you, Jackson. Thank you so much, Jackson. As y'all can tell, I love the way you ended that message, and I wish I could tell you there were more good news coming, but they don't invite us to parties and cheer people up. I pray we got a little bit more to tell you about what the General Assembly's been doing. But first, I want to get a sense of who is in the room. How many of y'all came from Hillsborough tonight? Okay.
From the city?
Yeah, live here in Hillsborough. Okay, good number. How many of y'all came from Chapel Hill? Durham? Let's go Roxborough. Anyone from Roxborough?
How about rural?
How about rural? Anywhere considered rural. Okay, beautiful. Look at that. Now that y'all know a little bit about where you come from, we do this at the beginning of every single town hall, and you will have to indulge me. You're going to have to indulge me a couple times. I want you to look around where you are. I I want you to find a face you don't know. And I want you to introduce yourself like we were in church on Sunday morning. So take a few moments and introduce yourself as someone you don't know. Beautiful. Y'all love each other already. I promise you by the end of tonight we will be family. Start to bring it back in. Start to bring it back in. This is always the fun part of the year because then you can't get people to stop talking. It's wonderful. Start to bring it back in, my friend. All right, all right, all right. We got to bring it back in because we got a packed agenda for you. I would keep you here till midnight, but they tell me I can't do that. So we got to get you out of here by 8. Start to come back in, my friends. We'll quiet down those conversations. Thank you. Thank you, Dr. I appreciate it. Friends, I appreciate you doing that because as corny as it may sound, Jackson is right. This is called the Unite North Carolina Tour because we want people who come to this event to get to know each other, to unite with each other from across the different geographies that you are here in this county, but also to be a part of a movement with people all across the state. This is the 19th town hall that we have hosted since July 20th. We have gone, thank you. They never stopped us. We have gone everywhere from Manio to Silva and everywhere in between. 1,200 plus North Carolinians have turned out, and now you are a part of it. So thank you. We are uniting North Carolina, and the thing you will learn tonight is that there is much more, like Jackson said, that we agree on than we disagree on. Now, you're probably wondering who I am now that I've spoken for 5 minutes without introducing myself. My name is Gino Nuzzolillo. You see he, him pronouns. I work for Common Cause North Carolina. This is my colleague.
I am Sailor Jones. I use he, him pronouns, and I work for Common Cause North Carolina.
And then I've got my two colleagues here in the back, Tyler Day, Policy and Civic Engagement Manager, Jane Pinsky, Legislative Affairs Director, and Phyllis Russell, one of our board members. So that is the Common Cause team that is here with you tonight. And I know we already acknowledged some of the folks who are running for local elected office and who otherwise may be in elected office, and as well as our state legislative leaders. Do we have any members of the clergy or anybody who holds local appointments or on a board here in Orange County? If you are, please stand up. We'd love to recognize you. We got anybody? Okay. Well, then we'll change that by the next time we come here. We'll get somebody on the Human Relations Board or something, right? Well, we appreciate y'all being here. Oh, over here is Klein. Hello. And Jane. So, friends, where is the clicker? Okay.
I got it.
Is it not? It's not working. Can you give me the other clicker? Thank you so much. All right. So, friends, what are we here to do tonight? Well, we're here to listen to you, and we're here to share a little bit of information about what has happened in the General Assembly this year. How many of y'all, raise your hands, have heard about something that made you feel some type of way? You already had your that made you feel some type of way. Great. That means all of y'all are going to speak tonight, right? Absolutely. So I want you to indulge me again on one piece because I am getting to learn about you all as we go along. So I want to ask you to respond to a few key questions, and if you agree with the statement, I want you to raise your hand, okay? I want you to raise your hand if you believe that the tax dollars you spend should be invested back in your community. All right, not a single person. Not a single person doesn't believe that. I want you to raise your hands if you believe that we should all have clean air to breathe and safe water to drink. I can tell some of my friends are already noisy. I promise we're going somewhere. I want you to raise your hand if you believe that all of our children should have access to good quality public schools. All right, all right. And finally, I want you to raise your hand. That's right, Jane. I want you to raise your hand if you believe that you should have a vote that counts and an elected official who gives a damn about you. Yeah. All right, is that something we're agree on? Beautiful. The reason we do that is because When we go to every single part of North Carolina, places as conservative as Moore County and as liberal as Orange County, every single person raises their hand. And it is not shtick. When we went to Rocky Mount, the Republican chair of the Nash County Commission was there to tell us about the frankly undemocratic, ramrodded proposal of casinos in his backyard. And the common agreement that he could find with the most liberal folks there, that democracy and transparency and public input matter. So I just want you to know that as you raise your hands, everybody in every room we've been to has raised their hands. Because, again, we are more united than we are divided. So let me ask you one more question, which is, you all raised your hand about a certain agenda for what we want for our communities. Has that been the agenda you've seen come out of Raleigh this year? So, what have we seen come out of Raleigh this year? Some of us have already talked about it a little bit. We're also going to have some partner organizations who are here to tell you a little bit about it. But we always start with some education about the things you may or may not have heard from before we get into the discussion portion of the event. So bills, budgets, and maps. I could not think of a B word that related to voting maps, and maybe Hillary can help
I can
me
think
out.
of a B word.
Oh, I don't want to hear it. So, first and foremost, how many of y'all have heard about bills known as Senate Bill 747, 749, or redistricting? Okay, a good number of people here. These are three bills that are going to dramatically impact our elections in 2024. And I want to make clear that what I'm about to talk to you about is going into effect in 2024. Most of the change that you all will experience this year, if you go to the polls, is the photo voter ID requirement, which will of course be back in place in 2024. But these are going to impact us next year. Senate Bill 747 is known as an elections omnibus bill. It was like 65 different pages, I think, Sailor, or something less than that. But it made a number of changes to how we're going to vote. The biggest one, it eliminates what was known as the 3-day grace period for mail-in ballots. How many of you voted by mail or know someone who has? Okay, good number of you. This eliminates that period that if you did everything right, you postmarked your ballot before Election Day and sent it in, if it does not get there by the time the polls close, it will not count. And if this policy had been put in place in 2020, that would mean up to 12,000 legitimately cast ballots would have been discounted. Sailor, elections in this state are decided by how few votes?
Coin flips.
Coin flips, basically. In 2020, the race for Chief Justice of the State Supreme Court was decided by, who knows it, how many votes?
401.
401. So in a state like North Carolina, where crucial statewide races can be decided by that few, 12,000 ballots is a lot. There's a number of other changes to that bill that continues to undermine, for example, our local elections budgets. But I can't even go through the whole omnibus. Maybe we'll leave it for Representative Price later on. But I also want to talk to you about Senate Bill 749. This one even more concerning to us as a pro-democracy organization. This bill changes how your state board of elections is run and your local board of elections, taking it from evenly split by party with then a chair of the board that is appointed by the governor, to now just an even partisan split on all of the boards. Now, that might not sound like a problem, but I think the question I have for you is, when was the last time you saw the two parties agree on anything?
Exactly.
Anything substantive? Absolutely not. Maybe about not having a Speaker of the House, but that's a whole different story entirely. I had to work it in. And what we are afraid of is that when it comes to 2024, and you have something that is as contentious as early voting plans in a lot of counties, the way that Senate Bill 749 exists with current law is that if there's a stalemate at the local level because of the partisan split, and a stalemate at the state level because of the partisan split, the default is one early voting site for an entire county, open only during weekdays with one Saturday and only during business hours. Exactly. Boo is right. I don't know who boo. Can you all imagine many of you have used early voting in your county. What the hell is it going to look like when you've got one early voting site for a county as big as Durham, a county as big as Orange, a county as big as Mecklenburg? It's chaos. It's chaos, it's costly, and it's calamitous. We like to use alliteration too. You'll see we work in that a lot here, my friends. that is a policy that's going to be put in place here in 2024. And then finally, when it comes to democracy and elections, we are also redrawing our voting maps. How many of y'all were able to make it out to a hearing, one of the 3 hearings we got last week? Only a couple of us. And it's probably not a surprise that many of us didn't, because they were held during working hours. One was in Raleigh, one was in Hickory, one was in Elizabeth City. I don't know if anyone in Chapel Hill is driving to Elizabeth City. If you are, I'll get in the car with you. But it's the new process in North Carolina of basically having to draw our voting maps again year after year after year, because the party in power can't get it right, keeps violating our rights, and we've got to go back to the drawing board to draw those maps again. So we will be happy to answer more questions about that, but just so y'all know, of course, all of our voting districts are going to change again in 2024. But that's not all. Beyond democracy, there's been a number of changes that I'm sure many of you have heard of that are also going to dramatically impact our lives. Bills like Senate Bill 20, bans abortion in North Carolina after 12 weeks. Bills like HB 808, that I know our friends from Equality North Carolina will talk to you a little bit about here tonight, but bans gender-affirming care for young LGBTQ plus North Carolinians. Now there's one rare victory in that, as I think Jackson mentioned, North Carolina will be expanding Medicaid on December 1st to 600,000 people who did not have health insurance before. That's right, a little clap, thank you, Teresa. That is a major positive change. You also have resources that are here on the table about what that exactly means. But a lot of changes to our health care here in North Carolina. Jackson mentioned this as well. Public education is under threat in North Carolina. And I say under threat because the way that our current state budget operates, the state budget that was passed a couple weeks ago now, provides hundreds of millions of dollars to expand what they call opportunity scholarships, but essentially provide money for students to attend charters and private schools here in a way that would deprive our traditional public schools of about $200 million a year. And in places like Northeast North Carolina, threaten to close down schools entirely. This has been, oh, yes.
And we have no representation on their boards. We elect
Right.
school boards that have no say over what happens in those schools.
Absolutely, absolutely. No,
And
thank
they
you for
don't
that.
provide public transportation. That means that everybody who attends there has to get their child there, and then that creates traffic problems for those neighborhoods and for other people that have to go through that area to commute to work.
That's right, that's right. So continual problems around public education. And of course, for those of you who are familiar with what is known as the Leandro Plan, that requires that all of our children receive a sound basic education as guaranteed by the state constitution, continues to not be enforced or passed by the state legislature.
And how many years has that been?
It's been a lot. It's been a lot. It's been many. And of course, that's not all that was passed in the state budget. I want to draw your attention to a couple of different important provisions that you may have not heard about, or maybe you have. One, beyond expanding Medicaid, this budget eliminates the corporate income tax in North Carolina. Oh, yes, that's right. And it reduces personal income taxes over the next few years, resulting in likely $8 billion less in revenue each year, up to $13 billion in certain cases. And I want, and just to kind of really hit this point home of what it means to lose that much revenue due to tax cuts with corporate income tax and personal taxes, what do y'all think it would cost each year to end hunger in North Carolina? Make sure no person went hungry in North Carolina. How much would that cost? Throw out a wild guess.
$500,000 a year.
$500,000 a year.
$500,000,000.
Oh, $500 million. 12 million. 500 billion. Well, y'all are good. The number as calculated by the North Carolina Budget and Tax Center is somewhere around $775 million each year. $8 billion in lost revenue, $750 million to end hunger. So I just want to put those two things in perspective. Obviously, there's a lot that goes into our state budget. But I think it's clear we all agree that we want taxes to go back into our communities, perhaps rather than the pockets of the uber wealthy. And then, of course, because the separate bills, yes, that's why they don't invite me to parties, because this is all I talk about, is all I think about. That's not all. There is also a number of provisions in this budget that are going to impact democracy, even more than the bills I just told you about. There is a provision buried deep within the budget that gives former lawmakers and all 170 current lawmakers the ability to decide for themselves whether to conceal, sell, or share their internal communications. Usually you can file a public records request, as you can everywhere, to get access to lawmakers' records. This provision of the budget prevents that from happening. They can conceal their records from you and don't have to give a reason for it. Additionally, you all may have seen this on Twitter if you're on Twitter. They have created a little-known legislative oversight. I can't even believe it as I'm saying. I feel like I'm about to start laughing because it just doesn't feel like it should be real. But a little-known legislative oversight and research office called Government Ops, or GovOps. Under this new scheme, GovOps is essentially like a secret investigative force permitted to demand access to any public office, to see any documents, and to compel public employees and contractors to cooperate. And is, of course, beholden to the legislative leaders in Raleigh. And we should all be concerned that the legislature is amassing even greater power while, at the same time, undermining our ability to shine a light on them and hold them accountable. There's more. There are a number of bills that are going to impact our environment. One of them is the North Carolina Farm Act passed this year, which removes about 2.5 million acres of wetlands from protections that guarantee higher water quality. And just over the border of our friends in Alamance County, I know we had someone here from the Orange County side of Mebane, but right over the border, a lot of our friends there are fighting the extension of an oil pipeline, the Southgate extension slated to go through Alamance County. And in the Regulatory Reform Act that I believe was just vetoed by Governor Cooper, that bill will expedite that proposed pipeline extension and could potentially be subject to a veto override vote from the legislature to force it into law. And finally, I won't spend too much time on this because we do have friends from Equality North Carolina here who will talk a little bit more about this, but this has been a disastrous year for our LGBTQ+ neighbors all across North Carolina, especially attacks on youth who are trying to access health care, and chaos that's been created in our schools over what's known as a Don't Say Gay law that requires schools to essentially out their children if they request a nickname or a name change or different pronouns, and really severely limits the kind of sexual education we can talk about in our schools. So I want to pause there for a moment, because that was a lot. But we think it's important for you to know about this. Many of you probably heard about some things here. Maybe you learned some things that you hadn't heard about before. But what happened here in 2023 is just going to dramatically change our lives. And the legislature is not the only piece that has changed. There's also been changes in the courts. And to talk to you just a little bit for a few minutes about what has been happening in the courts from the perspective of someone who sits on the court, I'd like to welcome newly minted Justice of the North Carolina State Supreme Court, Allison Ritz. And Allison, you have to cheer them up because I think I brought them down.
That's all right. That's what I'm here to do, and why I took a job that I didn't have plans on taking. I like to tell folks, I've worked with both these fine gentlemen, I like to tell folks that serving on the courts, the state courts, and running for statewide election was not on my 2023 bingo card. I missed twice. But we lost our control of our state courts, our state Supreme Court last November, and I had a come to Jesus moment, wake-up call the day after when I realized that the ability of our courts to serve the people of North Carolina required that folks who maybe didn't dream of doing this the day before were willing to step up and do hard things for a good cause and standing in our common cause. So I want to talk about two things tonight because I don't think you hear a lot of judges out talking to you about this. I've also heard judges are the most boring speaker, and I am going to prove that wrong. But I want to talk to you about transparency and accountability. I know, super exciting topics. So here is what I have found, friends, both when I was a litigator, arguing in front of the North Carolina Supreme Court, the United States Supreme Court, and I think what is one of our key problems, and that judges too frequently think they're the wizards of Oz. So they get elected. Here in North Carolina, we have partisan elections for judges. Is what it is. I didn't make that rule. But we have partisan elections for judges. The federal system, you get lifetime appointments. But here you run in an 8-year term, and then it's like you close the curtain, and you get to just pull the levers, and the people outside think you're this great magical wizard, and in fact, you're not. And folks don't get to see or know or understand what you're doing and how it impacts them. So my goal in serving and running is to be one of those people willing to pull back the curtain, to make sure that you all know what our courts are doing, what we stand for, and righting this ship. Because I think that to have an engaged, informed electorate means that we, as public servants, have to tell y'all more, and not just y'all. I mean, this is definitely grass tops, but we have to inform grassroots about what we're doing. So I've gone all over this state in the last 9.5 months, and I can tell you, folks don't know what our different courts in North Carolina do. They don't know what the district court does. They don't know what the Superior Court does, what the Court of Appeals does, and what the Supreme Court does. And friends, that's really hard then to say, voters, go out and vote for your judges. Hold them accountable. Accountable for what? I don't know what they do, right? So then you're just voting a partisan bubble. So we have a responsibility as the folks with the privilege of being inside the courtroom to push open the doors of the courthouse, not just so that people can come in and get redress for their injury, obtain equal justice under law, but so that they can hold us accountable. And I invite all of y'all to hold me accountable next year. That's what a democracy means. So what does that look like? It means talking about what happens at our district courts and our superior courts and our Court of Appeals and our Supreme Court. Let me just start with, I served on the Court of Appeals, and you know what? People don't understand how much work that we did on the Court of Appeals, that the Court of Appeals still does on families. So, y'all, surprised to no one, we have an opioid epidemic in this state and in this country. And we have inadequate resources to address the source of that problem, getting those drugs off the street, but even more importantly, giving people the addiction treatment and the mental health supports that they need. Our state laws frequently tell families that if you can't get your act together within a certain amount of time, you lose your kid forever. And that's, kids, we've got to keep them safe, and there's a trauma associated with breaking up families. And we do our job when we address all of the sources of the problem. But I'll tell you, in rural North Carolina, there frequently are long waits to get into addiction treatment or to get mental health counseling. And so you will never be able to put your family back together when the predicate is, get this treatment that, oh, I'm sorry, you can't get in time here in this part of the state. So we need judges like Carolyn Thompson on the Court of Appeals who understands that and reaches the right answer under the law with human empathy. I've heard people say judges should be clinical and have no emotion, and I just don't agree with that. I apply the law fairly and evenly without fear or favor, and every single person who comes in front of me deserves to be treated with respect and dignity and as a human being. And y'all, that sounds like a no-brainer, but I invite you to read some of the judicial questionnaires that some of the people sitting on your appellate courts now have filled out over the last few years. They said something starkly different. Likewise, there is a real debate right now about racial injustice and racial disparities within the criminal justice system. And there is a stark divide between the people who do not believe those racial disparities exist at all, and those who believe that they do, and the first step to fixing them is acknowledging them. You can't fix that which you refuse to see. So this is part of what we need to expect from our courts, from our judges and justices. We are people too, and we need to be held accountable as members of this greater community. I'm the daughter of a 30-year Navy veteran. I am the sister of a North Carolina public school teacher. I am the wife of a small business owner, and I'm a longtime civil rights and voting rights litigator. That's who I am. You should know that about all of your elected officials, that information. Not just your elected officials, but your judges. Know what their values are, ask them what their values are, and if they're not willing to talk about their values, we might have a problem. It doesn't mean that I don't recognize the limits of my job. I do. But I can tell you about where those limits come into play. And more importantly, I can tell you, I know what our North Carolina Constitution says. It says we have a right to free elections. And it's my job as the Supreme Court Justice to enforce that without fear or favor, no matter what the folks on Jones Street say.
That's right.
Our Constitution also promises us a quality, sound, basic education for free. It's my job to enforce that constitutional promise. And that should be the job of every member of my court. And it's something that you should ask everyone running for the privilege of serving this state on its courts, how they approach that Constitution. So y'all, the courts are increasingly politicized. I don't think anyone is surprised to hear that. There are things in our budget that affected the courts. Judicial Standards is the body that governs the standards, the behavior of our courts. And there were changes to the Judicial Standards Commission in the budget bill. They're taking away the ability of the state bar to appoint members to the Judicial Standards because I don't know why. We didn't have a discussion about it. I think lawyers should be part of the regulation of judges because judges are not the Wizard of Oz. So in short, I know y'all are here to do good work and have a lot to talk about this evening. The situation in our courts has changed. It has not changed for the better, but I have hope. And that's the one thing they can never take from us, is our ability to work together in common cause and to hope for something better than we have now. I believe we can do that when I look around and see the faces of the people in this room. Thank you so much for having me this evening.
Thank you, Justice Ford. We appreciate it very much. We're cooking with gas now, y'all. So we're running just a little bit behind schedule, and we want to start to hear from y'all in a minute. But after we told you a lot about what was happening in the legislature and you heard from the courts, we've also got a number of folks here who are working statewide and locally for the better to work on some of these reforms. If you are one of our partner organizations here tonight, we'd love for you to come up here and start making your way up to the front. Because we want to introduce you to a few of these folks who are working on some other aspects of reforming our system. So yeah, start coming up. There you go. Thank you, Z. Start coming up, my friends. I think it's Lenny and then Guyan if you want to come up as well. And we're just going to hear from them for a few moments. After that, my friends, we've got a number of people who have signed up to speak tonight. I'm going to go over a little bit about what that portion of the event will look like. So first, I'm going to invite up Z from Equality North Carolina to talk to you a little bit about the work they are doing here in the state.
Thanks, Gino. Evening, everyone. My name is Z. I use they, them pronouns. I'm an organizer at Equality North Carolina. We are a statewide advocacy organization fighting for the rights of the queer and trans community here in the state. So it's been a pretty tough year for our queer and trans community. especially our young people. They've been under constant attack in the General Assembly, out in the media, and it's been a lot of misinformation about the community that has really informed a lot of the slate of hate, as Gino had referenced earlier. And so we're here to continue to support our queer and trans young people and their families, even with the passage of the ban on gender-affirming care for young folks. There's a lot of wrinkles and complexities with that law. I think there's an FAQ resource up here at the table, so if you know any families that might be impacted by the legislation, to definitely check that out. And then the other bill that we're monitoring very closely is what Gino referenced around the Parents' Bill of Rights. I think it really impacts our teachers in a lot of ways, because now they have to post a lot of their curriculum and take extra steps. So not only are we draining resources from our schools, but we're making their jobs a lot harder. Equality North Carolina is hosting bi-weekly educator workshops. We have one on the 12th. So if you know any educators who want to learn more about the bill, there is some delay on the implementation in the budget, so they have until January 1st to start implementing it. So definitely check that out. And so Equality North Carolina will continue to be here to support our queer and trans families, and we're monitoring the ban on trans athletes as well that was specifically targeted trans girls, and seeing how different local schools and school boards are implementing that policy as well. So if you want to learn any more information, definitely check out some of the resources on the table, and you're welcome to reach out to me. Again, my name is Z, and I really appreciate all your support this evening.
Hello, my name is Lenny Friedman. I'm here with Better Ballot North Carolina, and I'm here with some colleagues of mine, Vicki and Jeff. And that good-looking man over there is my father. Oh, and Lee's here as well. So I'm here for one thing and one thing only, to advocate for ranked choice voting. Yeah. What that means is everything up here, we take no stance on. Better Ballot North Carolina is to advocate for ranked choice voting. And I'm going to give you 5 reasons why. 1, we are 100% nonpartisan. Ranked choice voting is used throughout the country by Democrats, by Republicans, across the political spectrum. We are nonpartisan. We're not here for any of this, whether you agree or disagree. We are here for ranked choice voting. Second, ranked choice voting requires a 50% plus 1 majority to be elected. That sounds logical, but in North Carolina, during our primaries, we have politicians elected all the time with 30%. 70% of people didn't want them as a number 1 choice. Ranked choice voting requires 50% plus 1. 3, eliminates, and I'm going to pause here, eliminates the spoiler effect. So all the talk about should no labels run, should the Forward Party run, should the Libertarian Party run, not too many of the younger generation here, you'll heard of Ross Perot and Ralph Nader. They should run, everybody should run. Increase voter choice, don't decrease voter choice. Ranked choice voting does that. 4, reduces polarization. This country doesn't disagree as much as it sounds like we do. Our voting system has the far left and the far right taking lead. We need the middle 80%. We need people to come together and find solutions the way this country was intended to do. And ranked choice voting drives that. 5th, it is easy. It's used by 20 million people around this country already. Republicans, Democrats, U.S. military, if all those people can figure it out, we can figure it out. We use ranked choice voting all the time. What do you want for dinner? Pizza, can't get it. Then I'll take a burrito. We don't have it. How about tacos? It's not that hard to rank your choices and rank your foods. Okay? We can get this done, and it changes so much of our politics. Thank you. Oh, by the way, Jackson's the one who connected us to all this, so thank you to Jackson.
I just had a quick question for you, Lenny.
Yeah.
What do you think about using the term, and this is a question for everybody to think about, if we called it instant runoff as opposed to ranked choice? Just something to think about.
Yeah, so great question, and say that again.
Number 6 on your list of
Number 6. So ranked choice voting is an instant runoff. That's how the mechanism works. It would have saved Georgia a couple $2 billion if they hadn't gone to those last 2 elections, and it would save all the taxpayers money from ever having to do a runoff election. So it is something that we discussed and certainly worth discussing. Instant runoff election. Thank you.
We have one more partner, friends, who will speak here.
Hi everybody, my name is Galian Zhang Miao, she, they pronouns. I'm with United for Fair Economy and also Raising Wages North Carolina. We're a coalition organization that is trying to raise the minimum wage in North Carolina. Does anyone know how much is the minimum wage in North Carolina? Okay, you know, $7.25. So it is so wrong to keep people in poverty. We say that's the minimum wage, that's actually the poverty wage, like you can't survive on $7.25. If you're a tip worker, you're making only $2.13. So that's the minimum wage for tip workers. So that's one of the most important issues that we're working on. It's a lot of issues that we are working on. We're also trying to support worker organizing. There's a lot of barriers to worker organizing in North Carolina. We are the right to work state, as you know. And so this is something important that we are trying to get addressed in this state.
Please introduce yourself and your hometown or where you're coming from tonight. So come on through.
Hey y'all. I've been in this room many times hosting many events for many issues. The thing that is so pressing for us right now though is about voting. It is all about voting. And so I want to encourage everyone to join as many organizations as you can. We have strength when we build ourselves in numbers. So find yourself a church. Find yourself join the NAACP. Join the group. So that together we can band together organizations. Right now we have no power. As a bunch of scattered individuals, no one cares. But show up as a group with the name of an organization and you will build your power. And that's what we all need, is power.
And this is a pretty beautiful looking group in here, if I say so myself, but and a powerful one too. And folks, before we go to the next person, I think the next person is Lou Goodall. Feel free to start making your way up, Lou, wherever you are. But as Lou is coming up, or do you want to stay in the back, Lou? Oh, you'll pass. You don't want to speak? Oh, that's totally fine. If you change your mind, sir, we'll come back to you. But for folks who are still thinking about what you might want to say, there are 2 questions that we ask folks to think about. One is just, what do you want your state lawmakers to know, and those folks who are in the corner offices in Raleigh? That can be one prompt to respond to. And the second can also be about what you want for the future of North Carolina, which is what we talk about right here, as something that you'd want to speak to as well. So we won't go to Lou, but we will go to Seth McClast. Last name is hard to read. Seth M. Is there a Seth here? Did we lose Seth? I think we lost Seth. So then next we will go to Steve Mahali. Steve.
You signed up, go.
Well, I just signed up to volunteer.
Speak for your people, go speak for white men.
Steve, you do not have to speak if you don't want to. But we would like to hear what you think about the issues.
Look, it's all in the t-shirt, right? I really don't think that this is a drill. I think this is the real thing. I have been living, I think, since 2016 or so, in this alternate reality created by people who would do anything to have power, as Allison said. So I encourage all of us to step out of our comfort zones as we can, join up, get busy. Don't take any of this for granted, because I don't think, I don't think I think we're actually in a very dangerous spot right now as a nation. So, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for taking the time to speak. But now this is the time to open it up to the crowd. We want as many people who've got something to say it. So come on up first. Oh, you did? Okay, I'll get it. We may have lost a sheet, but we'll blame Tyler Day for that. I'll get to you right after, but you come on up, friend. Find that missing sheet. And feel free to introduce yourself and where you're coming from.
It is about the schooling. As a student who goes to a public school, why is it fair that a rich kid that goes to a private school gets more opportunities than a kid who is trying, who is extremely intelligent, and who has all the skills, but does not have the money to go to a private school. Why is it fair that they get the most opportunities? If they don't have, and a lot of times they get the most opportunities, but what if they don't have the skill set? What if the person who has the skill set is living in a situation where they can't afford and pay for all the opportunities that a rich kid gets? So that's all I would like to say.
I think you said it all, my friend. Thank you so much. Okay, you want to come up on next? And then we'll raise hands again and we'll start. I see you in the back. No, a few other folks.
Sure. Thank you, Savannah, because I speak from another generation. I'm 81 years old, and I've been in this fight a very long time. And it's easy to get discouraged, but Savannah, we do this for you and for all our young people who are coming through and facing all of the threats to your future that are coming out of Jones Street. This is a time, I think, for us to really get loud and get obnoxious and really make a noise. As Reverend Barbara tells us, it's not enough to show up, but you have to speak up and you have to shout up. The votes on all of these things that you outlined so beautifully, thank you, are coming to a head, and the voting is going to happen probably next week, Tuesday or Wednesday, and shouting them down, interrupting them, so that they cannot vote on these very, very dangerous litigation that is coming out of Jones Street, we're going to be in big trouble. So as a grandmother, as a...
Come on up, feel free to introduce yourself to the crowd.
Gibson, can you hear the mic?
Bring it just a tiny bit closer.
Okay. Yeah, my name is Latasha Movement. ADOS stands for American a way to go about closing the racial wealth gap, even about of Special Order 15 that was issued by Sherman that promised 40 acres and a mule. But it's an existential crisis right now because most of the wealth that is within the ADOS family is wrapped up in baby boom, and their generational age limit is set for 2050. And the wealth that resides in ADOS families is in the form of Social Security, pensions, and these are things that cannot be passed down on inheritance. So I wanted to make that clear. And two numbers that I do want everyone to come away with. 10 is the proportion of the median white wealth to what everyone to take away from. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Tasha. You want to come up? So good.
I'm the lady who knits hats in the community. The why is when my son was in first grade, he noticed that there was a little girl in his class who was cold. And he absolutely demanded that I go and buy yarn in her favorite colors. And he spent 30 minutes while I comforted his infant brother so that he could provide a loving hat to his classmate. Since then, I stopped counting at 150 hats. I have Acorn Caps organization. There's flyers out in the hallway. Orange County Library was kind enough to believe in this mission. Right now, we are asking anyone who wants to knit or crochet a hat to please donate them. They go to kids that are well known by the social workers. For whatever reason, their family isn't able to provide the resources that they need. My goal is that we can have all North Carolina children that need a jacket have a jacket. There's no reason why we have to do coat drives in school. I grew up poor. I hated hearing about it. It made it feel like a very uneven playing field. When you're at school and you're cold, you don't want to have other people know about it because you're going to get picked on. If we can have that resource provided through the social workers, it would change the way kids feel about school. And personally, I feel like it would help end gun violence in our community. because kids would associate school with a nice place where they feel comforted and loved. So thank you so much.
Thank you for speaking. And a good reminder that our state legislature continues to fail our children in schools. And thank you so much for speaking. Next, come on up.
Good evening, everyone. The notice for this said bring kids, and I thought I'd be in good company. You know, I'm Hillary Klein. I'm just here in my personal capacity. I'm a civil rights attorney. I used to work with Allison, used to work with Sailor, used to work with Gino, which was all a pleasure. In my role as a civil rights attorney, I've kind of borne witness to what is going on and how far it's deviating from the constitutional principles that this state was founded upon. The second clause of our Constitution says all the power in this state derives from the people, and that the policy in this state is supposed to be according to the will of the people. And I think what we are seeing a legislature that is trying to get as far away from that as they absolutely can. They do not want to be responsive. They do not believe the power sides of the people, and they are willing to use the power that they have for their own means and not for others. All of this is about telling them, no, you can't do that, it's ours. The second thing I wanted to talk about, more personal, but it's about Equality NC and just supporting the trans community. I come from a very conservative background and family. I live close to here, so I know that this is actually a quite conservative area of the state. The issue around trans rights is being used to divide people. And in order to support people who are trans, you do not have to change anything about your family, what you do in your home, who you love, anything about yourself. All you have to believe is the golden rule, that you are going to treat other people the way you wanted to be treated. You don't have to change anything about how you live. It doesn't say anything about you other than you are going to live and let live and not try to impose your beliefs on other people. And for those of you who come from maybe another generation or conservative background, just take that home with you and understand this issue is being used to divide us. And we need to stand with this small minority of people, of neighbors, of sisters, brothers, community members. Some of them are, yes, minors, but we need to stand up for it. And they are being attacked. They are not the ones bringing themselves to the forefront. They are being selectively attacked for a reason, and we can do something about it. So, thank you.
Thank you. Friends, we've got a good bit of time left. Who would like to speak next? Yeah, come on up. And then Lou? Okay. Oh, we got Lou back, y'all. So Lou, you'll come next. I think we do it.
Hi, I'm Rachel Heller. And what do I want for the future of North Carolina to look like? First of all, I would like to have a state legislature in Raleigh that respects the constitutional principle of freedom to vote and makes it easy to vote rather than hard to vote. What I see happening now in Raleigh is the opposite of that. They're not upholding the Constitution. I would like a clean North Carolina for our children and grandchildren to be able to live in, breathe in, drink the water in, enjoy, and thrive in. And I see us going the wrong direction. I would like a state legislature in Raleigh that feels bound by our Constitution to provide a free, basic education for all children, and that should be public dollars going to public schools. Other people who want to send their children to private schools are free to do so. They just need to do what traditionally in the United States has always been the case, I think, which is you pay for it yourself. If you want to send your child to a religious school, that's your prerogative. You will pay for it. If you want to send your child to a fancy private school, I have no problem with that. Those cost a lot of money. You pay that. Public money should go to public schools. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Lou, stage is yours. We've been waiting all night.
Well, I just basically want to say something encouraging. I I'm a retired clinical psychologist. My life has been about service to others. I'm also a veteran, 4 years. So I appreciate that. So what I want to mention, though, is that as a Sierra Club volunteer and board member, I have been active regarding the Mountain Valley Pipeline, and before that, the Atlantic Coast Pipeline. We did away with the Atlantic Coast Pipeline.
Right.
We won that one. This one's harder. We've been working hard on this, but I think there's still a chance that we can stop it.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Lee. I'll mention, just as a quick plug, friends, one of our town halls is going to go to Alamance County on October 25th, in which one of the organizations, 7 Directions of Service, an indigenous rights group who's been fighting against this pipeline, will have a pretty lengthy agenda for their lawmakers there. So if you are in Orange, but you want to head over to Alamance to show support, we'll have that event next. Friends, we've got a few more minutes before we turn to Representative Price to close this out. Is there anybody else who wants to take this time? Yeah, come on up. And anybody else, raise your hand. I'll make sure to come to you next. Beautiful. We'll have time for about a few more speakers, but come on up.
My name is Jay Sussy. I live in right outside of Hillsborough in a rural area, semi-rural area. We've been here 17 years. And what I would like is for the legislative, for the state to be truly a purple state. I mean, if you look at who's registered to vote, it is pretty much split evenly between that 30%, 30%. So instead of it being a supermajority Republican, I think that it would be best if it was a true representative for everybody, and that the people would be able to select the people that they want, rather than having it forced down our throats and only having a couple of areas that are free to choose who they want. That's about it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Heather Redding. I live here in Hillsborough, and I just wanted to use this opportunity to say that I want a future where our public education is not under attack by groups like Moms for Liberty. I will use every opportunity to call out fascist groups like Moms for Liberty, who are doing everything in their power to dismantle public education, to make it difficult to actually just teach, right? To teach students. They are incessantly attacking every single aspect of public education. Their goal is not to support public education, it's to take kids and students and resources away from public schools. They are, as you all know, attacking librarians, they're attacking anything that doesn't jive with their religious right-wing agenda. We need to be out there supporting public education. We need to be there supporting our teachers. It doesn't matter what they're teaching, regardless of if it's English, math, whatever. We need to show them that they're appreciated. We need to support librarians because they're on the forefront of this as well. And they're having to defend every single decision about every single book, every single day. And that's nothing. Talking about the superintendent turnover, right? There's no stability in terms of the vision of our public education. And when you have people coming in and out, and you have school boards being flipped by these right-wing fascist groups, right? It's no wonder our kids are struggling and we're losing teachers. So we need to really be there, showing up at school board meetings if we can.
3 young kids. And Senator Meyer had a conflict with his work schedule, which is, of course, part of what legislators have to deal with when legislators only get paid $14,000 a year. So wanted to share that, but Representative Price is here, and we'll be here for your questions.
So yes, I am Renee Price, and I've been serving in the legislature since January after spending 10 years in Orange County. And he was my campaign manager. And Rob English, yeah, you came in late, so so you missed the introduction, but he is one of your Hillsborough town commissioners. I do want to say that it is very delightful to be around like-minded people, and some of the things that you had mentioned earlier, I just wanted to respond to them. On the Senate Bill 747, that voter, one of the election bills, one of the things that I think, in addition to the any provisions in there that could very well, am I limited?
Yeah. No. Like, Tyler is very fastidious.
It's all right. Provisions in there, especially if you're going in there with someone who has with their ballot, saying 749. We did talk about the, having shutting down hearings, but there are no maps. We are told that we're supposed to be coming back next week, the week of the 9th. That's all we know. We may see the maps, we may not. Who knows? Medicaid expansion, yes, that was in the budget. It was connected to the budget, but it was delayed. And the delay, those, a couple of months of delay meant a lot of people missed out health care and probably are closer to dying. And the expansion was held hostage by casinos. And it was very interesting that we were kind of shocked when we looked around and realized that the Democratic Party was pretty much in lockstep with the Freedom Caucus. Didn't want Medicaid expansion tied to casinos. This is the conference report. We got this. Oh, wait a minute. Let me show you the other part. Yeah. This is Bill. So we at around 4 o'clock on Wednesday afternoon, and we're told we're going to vote on it on Thursday. They are trying to be teaching of our delegation. They still went forward with each and every one of those bills that they proposed. I'm just going to say John Autry, he spoke up and talked about his granddaughter, and every opportunity he got, he said, just please just stop the hate. Allison Dahl, she was in tears, not because she was, upset, but she was just so angry. Marcia Morey, she told her own stories, as well as Deb Butler. And these are people that really, really tried to make people understand how they were affecting other people, but they didn't listen. With regards to Anita Earls, I know I'm going through a lot of the stuff fast, but I'm also looking at the 8 o'clock. With Anita Earls, many of us came forward, civil rights leaders, and we held a press conference in support of Anita Earls. And yes, we realize that these boards are trying to, these judicial boards are trying to silence her, but it's really part of a bigger picture. They are trying to silence people who have been historically or traditionally marginalized, underserved, and underrepresented.
That's
and
right.
We understand that clearly. So this is what we're dealing with in the legislature. I remain optimistic because I do see, I'm old enough to have seen things change. Hopefully, and I believe that things will change again. Yes, I grew up at a time when, Roe v. Wade happened. We were successful. They've tried to eliminate it, but I think with young people realizing what's going on, it will change. And, your question about what do I want North Carolina to look like in the future, I want those of you who are under the age of 21 to stand up. That's what I want young people, I want these people to be able to live their dreams, to do what they want to do, and to be successful, to have families, to be able to speak out as they're doing here. And that's what my hope is, because the future is theirs. I've lived most of my life. The future is theirs, and I am just hoping, and you're young too. I don't know how old you are. Whatever your dream is, and you're the ones that are going to have to do a lot of the fighting. I am there to support you, and any of you. My door is open. I probably, I think I drive my LA crazy because I answer too many the emails myself. Because I'm still in that mode, but most of us in the General Assembly are willing to listen to you. Now, when you come next week or the week after, do not be surprised when we start making noise. They will usher you out. But and oftentimes it really doesn't matter what you say. They passed the one item that you didn't mention, that wasn't mentioned, was about gun violence. We voted on the veto override when there were students in the gallery, and there was actually, and at that very time, around 10:30 that day, there was actually an active shooting incident in Greensboro, and they still overrode the veto to take to repeal pistol permits.
Shame.
Shame. So that's what we're dealing with, but I have hope.
Thank you, Representative. Thank you. We have time for about one question before they will kick us out of here. So does anybody have a question for Representative Price that they want to ask? Yes.
Yeah, so like as a constituent, what can we do? I mean, I know we're pretty much all probably on the same page here and feeling very kind of hopeless, you know, like feeling like trapped. I feel like a trapped animal, to be honest with you. Because I've been out canvassing for years, and just seeing the decimation of our democracy it's like, it gets to a point where the grip is so tight that it's hard to feel positive and like you can make a difference. And I keep hearing like, you gotta just get out and get the right people elected. But beyond doing that, like what can we do to make a difference?
Well, I think it's essential that we get people out to vote. We leave too many votes on the table. Too many people stay home. And I think one way to encourage people to vote is for people like yourself to tell your own story. You know, for me to just go around and say, oh, we got to support democracy. That doesn't really get it. That's not going to pull somebody out of the house. But if you tell your personal story that you had with regards to health care or education or something like that, people will listen to you because they know you. And then, you know, they'll come with you to the polls and you tell them to bring 10 more and 10 more and 10 more. But we really have to get people to the polls. When Sherry Beasley lost, she could have won in just one county. If 10 people in each precinct in Orange County had voted, she would have won.
And if the DNC had gotten behind her.
Well, yeah, that's right, if the DNC had gotten behind her, and I understand this year they've understood, they've admitted their mistake. They sent money to Ohio instead of North Carolina, and I understand that they will be sending money to North Carolina this time around. But again, I think it really is important to encourage people to vote because a lot of people, when we look at the number of people that are registered to vote and the number of people that voted, there's a gap. So tell your story and encourage people to come out and help them to understand why their vote is so important. And then just vote these folks out often.
And y'all, we have time for more questions, but they will start to pull us out. So I know Representative Price, Justice Riggs will be here for at least a few more minutes more. So if you've got a question for them, please.